Why I never bought into Snow White. There's a point in every child's life when you're meant to believe the world works a certain way, that good always triumphs over evil, that kindness will shield you, that if you're beautiful and sweet and sing to birds, everything will fall into place. Snow White was that early package message, a bite-sized fairy tale, drenched in naivety, a story sold in the pastel color of virtue and innocence. But even as a child, something in me bristled. I never bought into Snow White, and not just because I thought it was boring. I found it disingenuous, hollow, and, perhaps most of all, dangerously naive. The crux of Snow White is this: a gentle, trusting girl is hunted by a jealous queen, takes refuge in a forest, befriends 7 quirky men, and is ultimately saved by a prince's kiss after eating a cursed apple. It's a story built on passivity. Snow White does not grow, does not question, does not resist. She floats through a world that wishes her dead and survives, not because of cleverness or strength, but because the world happens to bend kindly her way. I remember thinking, is this the blueprint? It's not just that Snow White lacks agency. It's that the entire story glorifies her vulnerability. Her goodness is tied to her docility. Her reward is marriage to a stranger who finds her beautiful while she's unconscious. I found it unsettling, even at a young age, that this was presented as an ideal. The message wasn't just naive, it was perverse in its implications. But let's back up a bit. Naivety is not inherently a sin. There's a sweetness to unspoiled belief in the goodness of others. Children are meant to be naive, but stories are where we begin to test the scaffolding of our beliefs. Fairy tales, those ancient archetypal myths, are supposed to carry lessons. In that light, Snow White teaches you to be agreeable, pretty, and passive, and good things will come. But what happens when they don't? The world I found was not a forest that sheltered you when you fled evil. It was the evil, or at least the confusion. The world was the poisoned apple, and the witch and the prince were often the same person. As I grew older, I realized that the most dangerous part of stories like Snow White is the lullaby of safety they sing. They tell you someone will come save you. They tell you your purity is enough. They tell you that the people who hate you will eventually lose and justice will be served. And when life doesn't work that way, you blame yourself. Because what if you're not pure enough? Not good enough? Not Snow White enough? That's the trick of these old narratives. They wrap passivity in virtue. They teach compliance through fairy dust, and they fail miserably to prepare you for the jagged reality of human existence. Even as a child, I wanted characters who fought, who wrestled with inner demons, not just outward villains. I loved Mulan because she took risks. I admired Matilda, who used wit and intelligence to reclaim her life. But Snow White, she cleaned a house and sang while hiding, and when danger found her, she collapsed, literally. The antidote? Romantic intervention. How deeply embedded that message becomes. We don't even question it. It's stitched into wedding gowns, into purity rings, into the very idea of princess culture. But life doesn't function on those terms. Life demands curiosity. It demands mistakes. It demands learning through falling and rising by your own damn self. The world I grew up in didn't hand out happy endings to the compliant. It chewed up people who waited for rescue. It rewarded those who read the labels on the apples and asked where they came from. It honored the skeptical, the questioning, the resilient. In that world, Snow White didn't survive. She stayed in that coffin of glass, symbolic, pristine, dead. So I rejected the story. Not because it was a fairy tale, but because it was a lie. What's more dangerous than evil is the idea that you can avoid it by being good. That if you smile enough, and clean enough, and sing enough, no one will harm you. That if you're innocent, you'll be spared. Tell that to the girls who never made it home from the party. Tell that to the boys who said no and weren't believed. The world does not protect virtue. It rarely even recognizes it. And so I never bought into Snow White, not because she's unrealistic, but because she teaches the wrong lesson. Life isn't about waiting for someone to find you lovable while you sleep. It's about waking up before they do. It's about asking questions. It's about refusing the apple before it touches your lips, or at least knowing how to spit it out when it turns to poison. Fairy tales can be powerful. They're how we transmit values, archetypes, warnings, but they need revision. They need truth. Give me a tale where Snow White learns the Queen's magic, where she confronts her, where she leaves the forest and builds a home herself. That's it.